Other trailers on the lot had no means of protection. In fact, this one has no airline locks, nor does it have a kingpin lock, which means a trucker can back up to this trailer, hitch up, and take off. Well, Christine, it was this area this morning where the kids were walking down the sidewalk and it collapsed and they fell in just here behind me. That's just a few hundred feet away from the school. The crime scene here remains very active at this hour. As you can tell, police and investigators remain on the scene. Yeah, they actually are, Joanna. I tell you what, though, the crowd has definitely increased as we've entered the night hours versus what we were seeing earlier this afternoon when we were just in the dead heat of the day. We've done a little homework of our own. Now, if you've got a home that's roughly estimated about $100,000, if this levy was to go into effect, this would raise that to about $28 extra a year that you would be paying in property taxes. The city of Springfield wants to come in and apply for an MDFB loan of $1 million and then add another $2 million loan from its Small Business Development Fund. You're fumbling around trying to find them. That actually eats a whole lot of time that you could have. So they say the best thing you can do is have your keys out and ready to go. Not only are athletics being affected, but also the classroom, which means nobody is scoring big. That's money they simply couldn't do without any longer. Supporters of keeping K2 legal say banning the substance is a waste of taxpayer money. They also say if it becomes a felony, smoking K2 would have harsher penalties than if you were to smoke marijuana.
Keep K2 legal.
Joe Case was on a mission Saturday. He's trying to spread the word that K2 should remain legal in spite of several negative reports on its side effects.
I believe in its healing powers. It's, and it's a healthy alternative to hard drugs. And I mean, you don't want people doing those hard drugs for sure. So I believe this is a definite safer alternative.
But the state of Missouri says otherwise and will soon ban the substance completely. Case says lawmakers should give up while they're ahead because there's no way they can ban everything that's readily available.
There's all kinds of legal smokes out there, that are still legal and are going to stay legal. I mean, even if K2 is not.
A thought shared by local business owners who showed up in support of keeping K2 legal.
And it just seems like such a step backwards.
Incense and Peppermints in Springfield is just one business that sells K2. Now, it says it stopped selling the substance for a couple of weeks, and when it did, business plummeted.
Okay, 3136, please. I put the K2 back just like 2 days ago, and it's starting to pick up again.
Owner Pamela Sampson says she wonders where the state will get the money to enforce the ban. Sampson says making it illegal will cost the state tax revenue it could be reaping, but even she will comply if it's necessary.
I want to play by the rules, and I think all of us retailers do. I've got to play by the rules because I want to stay open, but I also can't stay open if I'm not selling anything.
But business aside, supporters believe the best solution would be restrictions versus an overall ban.
I do believe in an age limit for it. Like, I don't think little kids should be using these kind of things. I don't think little kids should be using any kind of things.
No, it was actually the reactions from several teens who had taken K2 that led lawmakers to consider this ban in the first place. Supporters argue the substance must have been mixed with something else because they've never heard of these type of side effects. Natalie? Michelle, owning chickens inside the city limits of Springfield has been illegal since the 1990s, but the laws have not exactly been clear. We found one Springfield woman who's been raising her own hens and didn't know until recently there was a problem. She's hoping tomorrow night's vote won't take away her passion, her hobby, and her green way of thinking.
When I decided to do this, I took it on as a hobby, sort of part of an extension of the garden.
But what Anna Lee Chappell didn't know nearly 2 years ago was that raising chickens in her backyard was illegal inside the city limits of Springfield.
My entire setup is in compliance with the municipal code. I didn't realize that there were any other places I needed to be looking.
She says it didn't take long before the health department began harassing her.
I started getting letters from the city saying, you need to get rid of your chickens. If you don't do it within 10 days, we'll turn off your utilities.
But about the same time this was happening, Springfield started discussions about changing the current ordinance which bans chickens.
What we're doing now is just unwinding something that wasn't right in the first place.
City Councilman Dan Childs has led the effort to make owning chickens legal and says considering the massive egg recall in Iowa, the discussions couldn't be more timely.
What I think is good about chickens is that it's helped us think about food security and sustainability and food quality.
And Chappell says most of the fears about chickens are merely that, just fears.
They grow used to you, and they come right up to you. They're friendly. They don't peck. They don't argue. They're sweet to each other.
She says raising chickens is not for everyone either, because there's more work to it than you would think.
Time consuming. It costs money. There's an overhead. You have to have a place to house your chickens. That place has to look decent so that your neighbors aren't complaining.
And while she feels confident that City Council will make the right decision, she says it would be a shame if she had to give up her backyard chickens.
It's something that I do for relaxation. It's something that I do for pleasure, but also there's, the fact that I actually get something back from them. My pets make me breakfast every morning.
Chappell says she will keep her chickens until the City Council makes a final decision. Now, at this point, the Planning and Zoning Commission and the city staff are recommending approval of the changes. Only the Health Department has spoken out against the idea. Good afternoon, guys. As you mentioned, the Pizza Hut here in Monette was destroyed, along with several other businesses that were damaged. Now, as you can see, the roof and the tiles are all just peeled off and lying in the middle of the parking lot now, but this could have been a whole lot worse. Here's why. The storm actually moved through a little after 7 this morning. Had it been a few hours later at lunchtime, look at this. We could have been sitting in the dining room and people seriously could have been hurt.
To look inside and be so grateful that there was no one in the building at the time and that no one was hurt, that's really a blessing.
In less than a minute, Pat Hopkins' 36-year-old family business was toppled.
We drove up and we're like, oh my goodness, this is a nightmare.
Inside the Pizza Hut, chairs are now part of the outdoors, and the buffet, well, it now sits on the ledge of a remaining brick wall.
To see things just demolished and how a force so much bigger than human beings could wreak this kind of damage.
That force of nature also hit the Finish Line car wash just a block away.
Our Bay 1 wall was totally knocked down. So
Debbie Nichols worked here for 2 years, and as she cleans up debris, she says her initial worry is what now?
This morning this was devastating, and I'm going, there goes my job.
At the car wash, bricks scatter the ground and one wall is shifted.
It's hard to see when you work somewhere to see damage like this. It's not easy.
Not easy for anyone, but with the damage done, most businesses are only left with one option.
We're going to scrape this up and clean it up and start over again.
Now, the National Weather Service says winds of 110 miles per hour are what did this damage right here. You can see the boosts are toppled, and take a look over here. This is one of the most interesting things right here. This table is actually completely through the roof right here. This is the kind of damage you're seeing all over Monette, and we're going to have much more on this story a little bit later. In Monette, Will Carter, KSPR News.